Coming up, 73 recommendations 40 years later. Ahead tonight, what the Constitutional Commission suggests about the Privy Council, term limits for prime ministers, and citizenship.
Also ahead, the stamp of approval on icons of independence.
Plus, the story behind these national heroes out on display. The National Report starts now.
Now in HD. ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This segment of the news is brought to you by BTC, powered by Lime.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Keishla Adderley.
And I'm Kendino Knowles. As always, it's good to have you with us.
Topping the news tonight, 73 recommendations have been put forward by the Constitutional Commission, mandated to brainstorm progressive amendments to the 40-year-old Constitution in consultation with the public. Commission Chairman Sean McQueenie, QC, delivered a summary of the report today, just after presenting a copy to the Prime Minister.
Now, during the presentation, Mr. McQueenie announced that the Commission has recommended that the preamble to the Constitution remain unchanged. However, the report does recommend changes to the processes which have governed contentious issues like citizenship and election queries.
Jiminita Swain has more on the report, which also addresses term limits for the Prime Minister and what constitutional powers may be taken away from the Attorney General.
A 9-month gestation period, the Constitutional Commission finally presenting its 250-page document to the Prime Minister and the nation earlier today. That document outlines 73 recommendations, with fewer than 30 needing constitutional change.
It is the very firm recommendation of the Commission that all of the provisions relating to the acquisition of citizenship and the transmission of citizenship to children or spouses should be cast in gender-neutral language to provide for the equal distribution of the right of citizenship and to remove any discrimination against women in this and indeed every other regard. That the one area of discrimination against men in relation to citizenship also needs to be remediated by constitutional reform. We take the view that the father, a Bahamian father, of an illegitimate child, provided he can establish paternity, should be able to transmit citizenship to his child.
Speaking to the system of government, the report rejects the establishment of term limits for the Prime Minister and members of Parliament. It recommends an increase in the complement of senators and the restriction on the size of the cabinet to 15 members. The Commission also calls for the establishment of a number of commissions.
I believe that democracy would be immeasurably strengthened if we were to have a truly constitutionally independent electoral and boundaries commission to replace the current constituencies commission. And we very firmly believe that the politicians and the judges should not be a part of this commission. It has to be a truly independent commission. And we believe that the parliamentary commissioner should be merged into this body. And we are proposing that there should be formed an integrity commission. This doesn't necessarily have to be done under the Constitution, but there should be an integrity commission that would supervise and investigate the conduct of members of Parliament as well as senior public officials.
Whether or not to retain the Privy Council and carry out the death penalty was perhaps one of the chief concerns of residents. Here's how the Commission decided on that.
The Commission does not recommend the abolition of appeals to the Privy Council. We think that the Privy Council should continue to be the ultimate court of appeal. The Commission supports the retention of capital punishment as the ultimate penalty under our law. I am obliged to say, however, as the Commission's report makes clear, that we did have a number of dissenting views.
If the Commission has its way, the Attorney General may lose some powers of the office, and general elections will come with more advanced notice.
Firmly of the view that the time has come for the Attorney General's powers of, all of the Attorney General's powers of prosecution, without exception, to be transferred to an independent, entrenched Director of Public Prosecutions. Be at least a 9 months period of notice before a general election is called, but leaving intact the provisions which would enable that to be accelerated. For example, if the Prime Minister loses a no confidence motion, if there's some other fundamental event that results in the failure of the government, you should be able to accelerate the calling of elections in those cases.
The Commission has also identified as priority issues the creation of an autonomous Director of Public Prosecutions and an Independent Boundaries Commission, along with the issues related to gender equality.
Amendment of the citizenship provisions to provide for gender neutrality, or gender equality if you like, and to establish full equality between men and women. The addition of sex as a prohibited ground of discrimination also needs to be added to Article 26.
Even though the Constitutional Commission has suggested 4 priority areas, the government will now have to decide which of those recommendations go to referendum. Reporting for ZNS Network News, I'm Jimenita Swain.
Well, Prime Minister Perry Christie weighed in on what will follow now that the Commission has released its report.
We're going to read your report very carefully with a view to recognizing that the government of the Bahamas must take a position, must take it to the legislature for its support, and then, of course, ultimately, the decision is made as to the people.
Now, the Prime Minister also talked about the role the opposition plays in the referendum process.
The government and the opposition is receiving the report together, same time. And so it's going to be incumbent upon us to determine the extent to which we are able to agree in moving forward on the recommendations of this report. To agree on what goes into the questions, the making of the questions in the referendum that would take place.
Gathered in Roslyn Square today for an independence exhibition featuring the unveiling of a set of commemorative 40th anniversary stamps. There was also an exhibit put on in the Senate building.
Now, the commemorative stamps bear the images of outstanding Bahamians, including Rhodes Scholars, members of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force HMBS Flamingo, and framers of the Constitution. Our Cyan Thompson has more.
Right Honorable Perry Christie opening the historic exhibition that features the framers of the Constitution and Journey to Independence. Prime Minister Christie stated that these items will be educational tools for generations to come.
The items on display are meant to further educate the Bahamian public and inculcate a respect and appreciation for Bahamian history and the personalities involved.
Minister of Transport and Aviation, the Honorable Glenys Hannah Martin, spoke of the importance of highlighting outstanding Bahamians who are featured on the commemorative stamps.
This issuance of stamps depicts important aspects of our national ethos. Those aspects that today, on our 40th anniversary of nationhood, we celebrate and hold high for the whole world to see. See how the world marks the manner of our bearing, pledged to excel through love and unity.
Former Governor General, the Honorable A.D. Hanna, told the audience that we need more programs to educate Bahamians about how this nation was built.
We don't know how we achieved independence, but we knew there was independence. It was written there at the time.
Meantime, current Governor General, His Excellency Sir Arthur Folkes, gave examples of how the story of the Bahamas could be told.
We not only have to write it, but we have to use modern methods, multimedia, to communicate it to our young people.
The public can view the exhibitions at the Senate and the Post Office. For the ZNS Network News, I'm Cyan Thompson.
The Progressive Liberal Party's headquarters is one of a few locations where displays of nation builders have been erected. Our Charisma Robinson got a closer look at the individual accomplishments of the icons of independence.
As this country celebrates its 40th anniversary of independence, Progressive Liberal Party Chairman Bradley Roberts says we cannot forget those who played a key role in the attainment of independence. Men and women like Sir Lyndon Oscar Pinlan, Dame Doris Johnson, Sir Mila Butler, Arthur Hanna, Sir Randolph Fox, and the list goes on.
This is our 40th anniversary, and we thought that we ought to project them and to portray them in the manner in which we have done here at Sir Lyndon Pinlan's house. There were more individuals, but we only had space for those that were selected, and it was not an easy choice as to the selection.
The PLP chairman gave a bit of history on the achievements of Sir Clement Maynard and Sir Milo Butler.
When one thinks of tourism in the Bahamas, one thinks of Sir Clement T. Maynard, who took the growth of tourism in the Bahamas to the present levels that we are enjoying. He was a very popular Minister of Tourism who introduced new ideas and new programs, and he was there as a part of the struggle and in the first PLP cabinet that was formed in 1967. Sir Milo Butler was the first Governor General in an independent Bahamas. Prior to that, he was an outstanding member of the House of Assembly and known as a champion of the poor. He always fought for the causes of the underprivileged, the downtrodden, and he was unafraid.
Beyond this independence, Mr. Roberts says his party is committed to ensuring that the message of nationhood hits home with the country's youth.
The PLP in its Charter of Governance made a commitment that it will incorporate into our history of our schools the teaching of the history of the Bahamas, of those individuals who participated and made significant contribution. And the present Minister of Education, Fitzgerald, is busily going about the implementation of that program. So 5 years from now, there shouldn't be a child in the Bahamas who should not be fully knowledgeable of all that took place leading up to independence in our country.
Mr. Roberts says as Bahamians observe this display here at PLP headquarters and other similar displays across the island, they should feel a sense of pride and take time to reflect on significant contributions these nation builders have made to this country. Charisma Robinson, ZNS Network News.
In our first look at weather, a mid-level trough over the central and southeastern islands, as you can see, is firing up some heavy showers and thunderstorms, and that will continue during the course of the night and tomorrow, resulting in flooding in low-lying areas. So we're asking residents in that part of the country to do exercise some caution. And then there is Tropical Storm Chantal, which at 5 o'clock this afternoon was located at 11.8 degrees north, longitude 53.9 west. It's moving west-northwest at about 26 miles per hour, backing winds of 45 miles per hour, and it could impact our weather over the weekend. But outside of our studios right now, we have partly cloudy skies, your temperature 82 degrees, relative humidity 66%, winds out of the east at 8 knots, barometric pressure 1,018.7 millibars, that's 30.08 inches, and it is steady. But stay tuned, temperatures around the Falmouth Islands, travel and boating forecast is still to come.
The government says 30 days. Shantytown residents say more time. More from the fallout coming up.
And what are you wearing this independence? Find out coming up.
As we as a nation now celebrate our 40th independence as a country, it causes all of us, particularly those who are defined as the independence generation, who were only babes at the time that we transformed ourselves from colony to country, to now understand that while we have come so very far as a young nation, there is a tremendous amount of work for us to do to continue to advance the interests of this country and our citizenry in the years ahead. As we celebrate this coming of age of our country, it is important for us to take the time to celebrate and salute those trailblazers who, if it were not for their sacrifice, we would not have what we are able to enjoy today. There should be one universal song of pride for all Bahamians as we celebrate our 40th independence anniversary, and let us ensure that our children and those yet unborn are able to understand and value the true history of our beloved country.
This portion of the news is brought to you by Lux Men's Warehouse.